Money is often described as a liquid, but in the highest echelons of global finance, it behaves more like a ghost. It moves through walls, crosses borders in milliseconds, and possesses the ability to vanish just as it is about to be grasped. For decades, one man seemed to master this spectral physics better than anyone else. Jeffrey Epstein was often called a financial wizard, a man whose wealth was as undeniable as its sources were mysterious. But as the fog of litigation and time begins to clear, we're discovering that his magic wasn't a product of genius, but of a meticulously engineered architecture of invisibility. Today, that architecture is under a new kind of siege. We are no longer relying solely on leaked manila envelopes or the testimony of reluctant witnesses. A new era of forensic technology, driven by high-speed algorithms and artificial intelligence, is beginning to map the para-banking systems that once shielded the world as most controversial figures. This is the story of how the digital trail is finally catching up to the ghosts of the past, and what happens when the machines start to see what humans were never meant to find. To understand how a fortune can be hidden, one must first understand the concept of financial friction. For the average citizen, money is high friction. Every transaction is logged, every paycheck is taxed, and every large transfer triggers a red flag at a local branch. But for the ultra high net worth individual, friction can be engineered away. Evidence suggests that Epstein's network utilized a sophisticated hub-and-spoke model of offshore entities. These weren't just simple bank accounts. They were multi-layered legal structures designed to decouple the owner from the asset. At the heart of this system was the United States Virgin Islands, a jurisdiction that offered a unique blend of American legal protection and offshore-style privacy. Internal documents and court filings suggest that entities like Southern Trust Company were positioned not just as businesses, but as private pipelines for capital. By moving funds through these conduits, wealth could be transformed. It could be stripped of its history, layered through shell companies in the British Virgin Islands, and eventually re-emerging in the legitimate banking system as clean investment capital. The complexity of these maneuvers was long thought to be impenetrable. A human auditor, faced with 10,000 wire transfers across 50 jurisdictions, might take years to find a single pattern of irregularity. However, the advent of large language models and specialized AI for forensic accounting has changed the math of investigations. These systems don't just read spreadsheets, they visualize networks. They can identify temporal clusters, instances where money moves through 4 different countries in a matter of hours, and flag them as synthetic transactions. When researchers applied these models to the known data points of the Epstein estate, the results suggested a network far more integrated into the global financial system than previously understood. The chemistry of this forever money is remarkably resilient. Much like the persistent chemicals used in industry, offshore wealth tends to bioaccumulate. It settles in real estate, in high-end art, and in the foundations of private equity firms. But the forever aspect of this wealth is now being challenged by the forever nature of the digital footprint. In the modern age, a deleted email is rarely gone. A wire transfer on the SWIFT network leaves a permanent, if hidden, scar. The paper trail began to glow under the heat of intense litigation. In the years following 2019, the unsealing of court documents revealed a startling level of institutional involvement. Major global banks, once thought to be merely passive observers, were shown in internal memos to be debating the reputational risk of their high-profile client. Yet for years the accounts remained open. The documents suggest that the sheer volume of capital moving through these channels created a gravity well that proved difficult for compliance departments to escape. As we dive deeper into the timeline, the stakes escalate. We see the transition from traditional offshore banking to more modern, opaque methods. There are indications that the network explored the use of early digital assets and private ledgers to further obfuscate the movement of funds. It was a race between the regulators and the architects, a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek played in the shadows of the global economy. But what is the human cost of this financial sorcery? Beyond the immediate victims of the underlying crimes, there is a systemic toll. When billions of dollars operate outside the reach of the law, it creates a two-tiered reality. It undermines the integrity of the global financial system and suggests that with enough financial friction removal, one can operate in a vacuum of accountability. The science of economics tells us that money is a proxy for power. When that power is hidden, it cannot be checked or balanced. The climax of this investigation arrived not with a single smoking gun, but with a mosaic of revelations. Court findings and investigative reports began to show how deeply the financial magic had penetrated. It wasn't just about one man, it was about a systemic vulnerability. The revelation was that the tools used, the shell companies, the offshore trusts, the private banking exceptions, are all perfectly legal components of the global economy. The magic was simply the audacity to use them all at once, at scale, to create a wall of noise that suppressed the signal of criminal activity. This brings us to the present day. The investigation into the Epstein financial network has become a blueprint for modern anti-money laundering efforts. We are seeing a global shift toward beneficial ownership registers, where the true humans behind the shell companies must be named. We are seeing the implementation of AI-driven monitoring that can spot the Epstein pattern before it becomes a decades-long mystery. The industry is being forced to substitute secrecy for transparency, not necessarily out of a moral awakening, but because the digital cost of hiding is becoming too high. The ongoing problem of hidden wealth remains, but the shadows are shrinking. Every time a new data leak occurs, be it the Pandora Papers or the Paradise Papers, the algorithms get smarter. The network is being mapped, node by node, dollar by dollar. We are entering an era where the financial wizardry of the past will be seen for what it truly was, a temporary glitch in the transition to a fully transparent digital world. But we must ask ourselves, as the tools of surveillance and forensic accounting become more powerful, who else is being tracked? If we can unmask the ghost of the past, what does that mean for the privacy of the future? The same algorithms that find the hidden billions of a criminal can also find the modest savings of a dissident or the private transactions of a citizen. We are building a world where nothing is hidden, and while that may bring justice to some, it brings a new kind of exposure to everyone. The ledger is still being written. New documents are unsealed every year, and the machines continue to crunch the numbers. The hunt for the truth is no longer just a human endeavor. It is a collaboration between the seeker and the processor. As the final layers of the Epstein financial web are peeled back, we are left with a haunting realization. The money wasn't just hidden in the Virgin Islands or in Swiss vaults. It was hidden in the very complexity of the system we use every day. The question remains, in a world where everything is tracked, can true power ever really be hidden again? Or will the next generation of financial wizards simply find a new way to disappear into the data? If you want to explore more dark corners of science, finance, and history, hit subscribe. The truth is often buried, but it never stays that way forever.